I'm Damien, 24 years old, and I just won the National Young Innovator Award for my breakthrough algorithm. As I walked off stage, clutching my trophy, I spotted my brother Tyler in the crowd. His jaw dropped in disbelief. It's funny how life works. Just 1 year ago, my family couldn't bother to attend my college graduation, yet they flew 3,000 miles for my brother's birthday party. While I'm about to share how my family's betrayal became my greatest motivation, let me know where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to rebuild yourself. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of overcoming life's challenges. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood of Boston, I always believed we were the perfect American family. My father, Harold, worked as an engineer at a respected firm, bringing home a comfortable salary that afforded us a 4-bedroom house with a backyard. My mother, Margaret, taught 5th grade at the local elementary school, coming home with stories about her students that made us laugh during dinner. On the surface, we looked like the ideal family: hard-working parents, 2 healthy boys, and a golden retriever named Rusty, who greeted us when we came home from school. But beneath this picturesque facade, there was an imbalance I noticed early, but couldn't name until much later. My brother Tyler, 3 years my junior, seemed to exist in a different household than I did. While I lived in a world where achievements were expected and failures scrutinized, Tyler inhabited a realm where his every move was celebrated and his missteps gently corrected. Damien, a 98%? What happened to the other 2%? My father would ask, scanning my nearly perfect math test. Meanwhile, Tyler's 85% earned him enthusiastic praise and a trip for ice cream. This pattern repeated throughout our childhood. My piano recitals were attended with polite obligation, followed by critiques about my posture or tempo. When Tyler took up baseball, my parents never missed a game, cheering wildly from the bleachers even when he struck out. They purchased top-of-the-line equipment for him, while insisting my second-hand clarinet was perfectly adequate. Birthday celebrations crystallized the difference. My 16th birthday was marked with a standard cake and a modest gift, a watch my father deemed practical for a young man. 3 years later, Tyler's 16th birthday featured a backyard party with 50 guests, a professional DJ, and the keys to a used but well-maintained Ford that my parents had secretly restored. "Your brother needs more encouragement," my mother would explain when I questioned these disparities. "You've always been so independent and driven, Damien. We know you'll succeed no matter what." Their confidence in my self-sufficiency became their excuse for emotional neglect. I learned to drive myself to academic excellence, joining every club and competition that might earn their approval. National Merit Scholar? A nod and quick change of subject. First place in the state science competition? That's nice, Damien. Did you take out the trash? In those early years, Tyler and I were actually close. As young boys, we built elaborate forts in the backyard, created secret languages, and defended each other from neighborhood bullies. He looked up to me, following me around and mimicking my habits. I taught him to tie his shoes, ride a bike, and solve simple math problems. But as we grew older and the preferential treatment became more pronounced, a wedge formed between us. Tyler began to accept his golden child status as natural, occasionally showing flashes of entitlement that irritated even our parents. By high school, our conversations had reduced to superficial exchanges about school or chores. "Why do you always have to be so serious?" he'd ask when I declined to join his friends for impromptu weeknight parties. "Mom and Dad won't care if you miss one homework assignment." But they would care. The standards for us existed in parallel universes. Throughout high school, I maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA, served as student body president, and volunteered 20 hours weekly at the local science museum. My academic transcript and extracurricular list grew impressive. Yet at home, these achievements were background noise. The only person who truly recognized my efforts was my best friend Nathan. He lived 3 houses down and had witnessed the disparity firsthand over years of after-school study sessions and weekend hangouts at my house. "Your parents are blind if they don't see how exceptional you are," Nathan told me after witnessing a particularly dismissive reaction to my acceptance into the National Honor Society. "One day, they'll regret not appreciating you." Nathan's home became my refuge. His parents invited me for dinner often, asked about my achievements, and displayed genuine interest in my goals. Mrs. Peterson once attended my debate tournament, when both my parents claimed to be too busy, despite being home to drive Tyler to a movie with friends that same evening. By senior year of high school, I had accepted that my worth at home would never be properly acknowledged. I channeled that hurt into determination, applying to colleges far from Boston, seeking both geographic and emotional distance from the family that couldn't seem to see me. When the thick acceptance packet arrived from California Institute of Technology with a full academic scholarship, I felt vindicated. This prestigious engineering program accepted less than 8% of applicants, and they wanted me enough to cover my entire tuition. I rushed home, letter in hand, eager to share the news. My parents were in the kitchen, perfect timing for my announcement. "Mom, Dad, I got into Caltech with a full scholarship," I said, trying to contain my excitement as I slid the acceptance letter across the counter. My father glanced up from his newspaper. "That's in California, isn't it? Pretty far." My mother skimmed the letter. "A scholarship? Well, that's practical. We couldn't afford to send you somewhere that expensive. No congratulations. No pride. No recognition of the achievement. Just practical considerations and subtle reminders of financial limitations that had never seemed to apply to Tyler's expenses." The contrast became even more stark 2 weeks later, when Tyler made the junior varsity basketball team. My parents took the family out to dinner at an expensive steakhouse to celebrate. During the meal, they discussed the possibility of hiring a private coach to help him develop his skills. The bill for that dinner exceeded $500, more than they'd spent on my high school graduation gift. I left for California with a mixture of excitement and heartbreak. The 3,000-mile distance provided both escape and perspective. My dorm room, though small and shared with a stranger, felt like the first space that was truly mine. College life was busy from the start. I balanced rigorous engineering courses with a part-time job at the campus computer lab. The scholarship covered tuition, but not living expenses, so I worked 20 hours weekly to avoid asking my parents for money. Meanwhile, Tyler's high school expenses, from sports equipment to prom, were covered without question. During my freshman year, I called home weekly. These conversations followed a predictable pattern: brief inquiries about my studies, quick updates about their lives, and extended discussions about Tyler's latest achievements or challenges. Gradually, I reduced these calls to bi-weekly, then monthly. No one seemed to notice. The turning point in my college experience came during sophomore year, when I took an advanced algorithms class with Professor Edward Williams. Unlike most professors who maintained professional distance from undergraduates, Dr. Williams took a personal interest in his most dedicated students. After I earned the highest score on his notoriously difficult midterm exam, he invited me to his office hours. "Mr. Walker, your solution to the network optimization problem was elegant," he said, referencing my exam. "Have you considered research opportunities?" That conversation led to a research assistant position in Dr. Williams' lab, where I worked on cutting-edge problems in computational efficiency. For the first time, I experienced what it felt like to have my intellectual abilities not just recognized, but celebrated. Dr. Entitu Williams became the mentor I'd always craved, challenging me, guiding me, and showing genuine interest in my development. Under his guidance, I contributed to a research paper published in a respected computer science journal as a sophomore undergraduate, a rare accomplishment. When the paper was published, Dr. Williams took the research team out for dinner and raised a toast to our contributions. "To Damien," he said, glass raised, "whose innovative approach to the algorithm made this breakthrough possible." I almost cried. No one had ever publicly acknowledged my contributions like that. Meanwhile, my connections with home grew increasingly tenuous. My parents rarely called unless they needed something, usually technical support with their computers or phones. When I mentioned the published research paper, my mother said, "That's nice, dear," before immediately launching into a story about Tyler's college campus tour. Tyler had started looking at colleges, focusing mainly on East Coast schools with strong social scenes and generous athletic departments. My parents accompanied him on tours to 5 different universities, posting photos of their family college road trip on social media. They hadn't visited a single school with me before I left for Caltech. When Tyler eventually chose to attend New York University, my parents covered his full tuition, apartment in Manhattan, and living expenses. "We want him to focus on his studies, not worry about money," my father explained during one of our increasingly rare phone conversations. The irony that they hadn't offered me the same courtesy seemed lost on them. Holiday visits became exercises in emotional endurance. I flew home for Christmas my first 2 years, using money saved from my campus job. Each visit reinforced my outsider status. Conversations revolved around Tyler's experiences, and even relatives seemed programmed to ask him detailed questions while offering me only generic pleasantries. By junior year, I stopped coming home for shorter breaks. When I declined to join the family for Thanksgiving, citing a research deadline, no one protested or even seemed disappointed. That same year, I discovered through social media that my family had taken a spring break trip to Florida without even mentioning it to me. As my birth family grew more distant, I built connections that filled the emotional void. My friendship with Nathan remained strong despite the distance, with regular video calls and honest conversations. Dr. Williams invited me to family dinners at his home, where his wife and teenage daughters treated me like extended family. I also formed close bonds with fellow engineering students who understood the rigor of our program and the passion that drove us. We celebrated birthdays, formed study groups that evolved into genuine friendships, and supported each other through academic and personal challenges. During my junior year, I dated Jessica, a brilliant chemistry major who helped me understand that my family's treatment reflected their limitations, not my worth. "They've assigned you a role in their family story," she said during one late-night conversation about my parents. "But you don't have to accept that role. You get to write your own story." Though our romantic relationship eventually ended when she transferred to complete her program at MIT, her insight stayed with me. I began to see myself not as the overlooked son seeking approval, but as an independent adult building a life based on my own values and goals. By senior year, I had secured an impressive internship at a leading tech company, added 2 more research publications to my resume, and earned the departmental award for outstanding undergraduate research. I was building a life and career that required no validation from the people who had withheld it for so long. Senior year flew by in a blur of final projects, job interviews, and graduate school applications. Though I had attractive offers from several tech companies, I remained undecided about my path after graduation. What was certain, however, was that I would graduate with highest honors, recognized as the top student in the computer science department. 3 months before graduation, I sent formal invitations to my family. Despite our strained relationship, some part of me hoped this significant milestone would finally earn their pride and attention. I even called my mother to personally invite them. "We'll see, Damien," she said non-committally. "That's quite a trip, and you know how busy things get in May." As graduation approached with no confirmed plans for my family, I followed up with another call. "About graduation," I began. "I need to know if you're coming so I can arrange tickets." My mother's voice took on an apologetic tone I'd heard many times before. "Oh, Damien, I'm sorry, but we won't be able to make it. It's just not financially feasible right now with the economy and your father's company cutting bonuses." The excuse seemed plausible enough. Travel from Boston to California wasn't cheap, but something in her voice triggered my suspicion. I pressed for details. "So no one's coming? Not even one of you?" "We're all so proud of you," she deflected. "But it just doesn't make sense to spend thousands of dollars on plane tickets and hotels right now. You understand, don't you? You've always been our practical one." I swallowed my disappointment. "Sure, Mom. I understand." 2 days later, mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, I froze at a post from my cousin Rachel. It showed my parents and Tyler at JFK Airport with the caption, "Off to NYC for the weekend. Tyler's birthday bash is going to be epic." The timestamp was from that morning. While claiming they couldn't afford to attend my college graduation, my parents were flying across the country for my brother's 21st birthday party. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The betrayal wasn't just that they chose not to come. It was the lie, the pretense that financial constraints were the issue, rather than simply admitting I wasn't a priority. Tyler's birthday party, apparently, justified the expense that my graduation didn't. With shaking hands, I took screenshots of the post and several others that appeared throughout the day, my family checking into their hotel, shopping in Manhattan, dining at an upscale restaurant. I calculated the approximate cost of their weekend, easily $3,000 or more. Graduation day arrived with a perfect California sky and campus alive with excitement. Parents and families gathered, carrying flowers and balloons, beaming with pride as they located their graduates. I walked alone to the ceremony, my honors stole and medals feeling suddenly heavy around my neck. As the dean called my name, announcing my summa cum laude status and department award, I scanned the audience out of habit, knowing I'd see no familiar faces. But I was wrong. In the crowd stood Nathan, who had flown in from his graduate program in Texas, and Professor Williams, who had adjusted his conference schedule to attend. They stood and cheered as I crossed the stage, their support a lifeline amidst the sea of family celebrations I wasn't part of. After the ceremony, as families took photos and headed to celebratory dinners, I retreated to my apartment with Nathan and Professor Williams. They had brought champagne and a small cake, determined that my achievement wouldn't go uncelebrated. To exceptional talent and perseverance, Professor Williams toasted. The scientific community is lucky to have you, Damien. Later that night, after they left, I finally called my parents. The sounds of a party echoed in the background when my father answered. Damien, how was the ceremony? His casual tone, as if he hadn't just missed one of the most significant days of my life, ignited something in me. You lied to me, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. You said you couldn't afford to come, but you're in New York right now spending thousands on Tyler's birthday. Silence, then defense. Now wait a minute, that's different. This was planned months ago, and Tyler really needed this celebration after his rough semester. And I didn't need my family at my college graduation? After 4 years of working myself to exhaustion? You've always been independent, Damien. Tyler needs more support. No, Tyler gets more support. There's a difference. The conversation deteriorated from there. My mother got on the line, her voice tense as she accused me of trying to ruin Tyler's special weekend with my selfishness. My father suggested I was overreacting, that graduation was just a ceremony, and I should be mature enough to understand family finances required priorities. I do understand priorities, I finally said, and I understand that I've never been one of yours. That stops today. Don't contact me anymore. I hung up, blocked their numbers, and removed them from all social media. The last message I received came from Tyler. Way to make everything about you again. Mom's crying now. You always have to be so dramatic instead of just being happy for me for once. That night, alone in my apartment surrounded by packed boxes as I prepared to leave college behind, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of my family's rejection. I cried until there were no tears left, mourning not just their absence that day, but the years of conditional love and unequal treatment. By morning, grief had hardened into resolution. If they didn't want to be part of my life's achievements, I would build a life so successful they would eventually regret their absence. After graduation, I accepted a software engineering position at Nexus Innovations, a promising startup in San Francisco developing energy-efficient smart systems. The company wasn't as prestigious as some of the larger tech giants that had offered me positions, but it provided something more valuable, the opportunity to make a significant impact in a growing field. I found a small but functional apartment in Oakland, commuting 40 minutes each way to save on San Francisco's astronomical rent prices. The space was mine alone. No roommates, no compromises, no need to accommodate anyone else's preferences or routines. After years of trying to earn approval that never came, creating a space that reflected only my tastes felt revolutionary. On my first night in the new apartment, surrounded by unpacked boxes and takeout containers, I wrote down specific goals on a notepad. Professional. Develop technology that makes a meaningful difference in people's lives. Advance to senior engineer within 2 years. Patent an original innovation. Personal. Build genuine connections with people who value me. Address and heal from family trauma. Learn to define success on my own terms, not through external validation. These goals became my roadmap as I navigated life without the family connections most people take for granted. Holidays were the hardest at first. When colleagues asked about Thanksgiving or Christmas plans, I became adept at vague answers that prevented pitying responses. My first week at Nexus introduced me to Marcus Reynolds, the technical director who would become an unexpected ally in my professional development. During our initial one-on-one meeting, he reviewed my college projects and research papers with genuine interest. "Your algorithm optimization work is impressive," he noted, referencing the research I'd done with Professor Williams. "We have some efficiency challenges in our current system architecture that your approach might help with." Within a month, Marcus assigned me to a critical project aimed at reducing the power consumption of the company's home automation systems. The existing team had been struggling with performance issues that caused devices to drain batteries too quickly. The problem presented a perfect application for my research focus. "I'm giving you 2 weeks to analyze the system and propose solutions," Marcus told me. "This is a chance to prove yourself early." I threw myself into the challenge, working late into the nights and through weekends. When I presented my findings and proposed solution, the senior engineers initially resisted my approach, questioning whether a new graduate could solve a problem they'd been tackling for months. "The issue isn't in the transmission protocols," I explained, displaying my analysis on the conference room screen. "It's in how the system queues and batches commands. My solution reduces unnecessary wake cycles by 67%. Marcus supported my implementation despite the team's skepticism. When the solution proved successful in testing, reducing power consumption dramatically, I earned the respect of the engineering team and early recognition from company leadership. This professional success provided external validation, but my internal landscape required more deliberate reconstruction. On the recommendation of a colleague, I joined a support group for adults dealing with family estrangement. Every Tuesday evening, in the basement of a community center, I sat in a circle with others whose family stories echoed aspects of my own. There was Laura, whose parents rejected her after she chose a career in art instead of the family business. Michael, whose siblings systematically excluded him from family events after a disagreement over their father's care. Sophia, whose mother's narcissism had warped every family relationship. In their experiences, I found validation that my decision to cut contact wasn't an overreaction but a necessary act of self-preservation. The group facilitator, Rachel, was a therapist specializing in family trauma. After 3 sessions, she suggested I might benefit from individual therapy. "The patterns you're describing, the golden child divided by scapegoat dynamic, the conditional approval, the gaslighting about your experiences, these are classic components of emotional neglect," she explained. "Individual therapy could help you process these experiences more deeply." I began weekly sessions with Dr. Lillian Parker, a no-nonsense therapist who helped me understand how my childhood had shaped my responses to stress, achievement, and relationships. Dr. Parker introduced me to concepts like hyper-independence, perfectionism as a trauma response, and the tendency to seek validation through achievement. "You've been trying to earn love that should have been freely given," she observed during one session. "That's why no achievement ever feels quite enough." Alongside therapy, I built a routine of self-care practices that gradually shifted my well-being. Each morning began with 30 minutes of running along the Oakland waterfront, followed by 10 minutes of meditation. Evenings included reading not technical manuals or professional development books, but literature that expanded my emotional vocabulary and perspective. Despite these positive changes, doubt and loneliness still ambushed me at unexpected moments. Some nights I'd find myself hovering over my phone, finger poised to unblock my parents' numbers, wondering if cutting them off completely had been too extreme. The holidays brought waves of memories and grief that no amount of chosen family gatherings could fully dispel. During these moments of weakness, I'd reread the screenshots of my family in New York during my graduation, reminding myself that the pain of no contact was less than the pain of continuing to seek approval from people unwilling to give it. 6 months into my new life, Nexus recognized my contributions with a performance bonus and promotion to senior engineer, an advancement that typically required at least 2 years at the company. My project had reduced manufacturing costs while improving customer satisfaction through longer battery life in the company's products. Your solution has become a selling point for our entire product line, Marcus told me during my performance review. The executive team has noticed. As my professional reputation grew, so did my personal connections. Nathan visited from Texas, staying in my spare room for a week and helping me explore the Bay Area as a proper resident rather than a tourist. I maintained regular contact with Professor Williams, who connected me with former students now working in various tech companies around San Francisco. Through a company volleyball league, I met people who became regular parts of my life: weekend hiking companions, dinner party hosts, concert buddies. We celebrated birthdays and promotions together, creating new traditions untethered from my painful past. Thanksgiving arrived, the first major holiday since cutting contact with my family. Rather than spending it alone or imposing on acquaintances' family gatherings, I organized a Friendsgiving for others without local family plans. 8 of us gathered in my apartment, each contributing a dish and sharing stories of our varied backgrounds. For the first time, a holiday felt like a genuine celebration rather than an exercise in emotional endurance. As the 1-year mark of my graduation approached, I realized I had built something valuable from the ruins of family rejection, not just professional success, but a life structured around authentic connections and personal growth, rather than the endless pursuit of approval that had defined my earlier years. 9 months into my role at Nexus Innovations, I found myself staring at energy consumption data late one night, long after most colleagues had gone home. The company had made significant improvements, based on my earlier optimizations, but I saw potential for something more revolutionary. Our current systems were efficient by industry standards, but what if we could fundamentally change the approach? The idea struck me during that late-night analysis session: an adaptive learning algorithm that could predict usage patterns and optimize energy distribution across interconnected smart home systems. Traditional systems operated on fixed schedules or manual commands. My concept would create an intelligent network that anticipated needs and redistributed resources accordingly. I spent the next 3 weekends developing a prototype, filling my apartment with whiteboards covered in mathematical notations and system architecture diagrams. Sleep became optional as the concept evolved from theoretical to practical. By Monday morning, I had a rudimentary demonstration that showed potential energy savings of over 40% compared to our current best-in-class systems. Approaching Marcus with my concept required courage. Proposing a fundamental reimagining of our core technology could be seen as either innovative or presumptuous, coming from a relatively new employee. "I'd like 30 minutes to show you something I've been working on," I requested during our weekly check-in. Marcus raised an eyebrow at my serious tone, but nodded. "Conference room B is free now." As I walked him through my concept, Marcus's expression shifted from polite interest to genuine excitement. He asked pointed questions that pushed me to refine my thinking on the spot. By the end of our impromptu meeting, he was taking notes rapidly. "This could be significant," he finally said, leaning back. "How soon can you have a formal proposal ready for the executive team?" 3 days, I promised, already planning the presentation in my head. Those 3 days blurred into a marathon of refinement, documentation, and preparation. I barely left the office, catching naps on the break room couch when exhaustion became overwhelming. By Thursday afternoon, I had a comprehensive proposal and demonstration ready. The presentation to the executive team was scheduled for Friday morning, a coveted slot typically reserved for established project leaders. As I set up my materials in the boardroom, I noticed Marcus had arranged for the entire executive leadership to attend, including the CEO. "No pressure," he whispered with a smile. "But this could be a game changer for both you and Nexus." For 50 minutes, I guided the leadership team through my vision for what I called the Adaptive Energy Optimization Framework. I demonstrated the prototype, walked through the mathematics behind the algorithm, and presented projections for energy savings and market differentiation. When I finished, the room remained silent for several uncomfortable seconds. Then, the CEO, Alan Patterson, leaned forward. "How long would full implementation take?" "With a dedicated team, we could have a testable system in 4 months," Market ready in 9, I responded, having carefully calculated these timelines. And you want to lead this project? He asked, studying my face. Yes, sir. I believe in this concept more than anything I've ever developed. The meeting concluded with unanimous approval for a special project team with me as technical lead. Within a week, I had 5 engineers reporting to me and a substantial development budget. At 25 years old, less than a year out of college, I had become responsible for what the CEO called the future direction of Nexus technology. The reality of this responsibility hit me the night after the team was assembled. Sitting alone in my apartment, I experienced a moment of paralyzing doubt. What if the concept failed in full-scale implementation? What if I couldn't lead effectively? What if I'd oversold my capabilities? I called Nathan, the only person who truly understood where I'd started. They've put me in charge of a major project, I explained, my voice betraying my anxiety. Of course they did, Nathan replied matter-of-factly. They recognize what your family never could. You're exceptional, Damien. You always have been. His confidence steadied me. The next morning, I walked into our dedicated project space with clear direction and purpose. The development process brought expected challenges. 2 months in, we hit a significant obstacle when real-world testing revealed interference patterns we hadn't accounted for in the simulation. The team grew frustrated as our progress stalled. We might need to reconsider the core approach, suggested Brian, one of the senior engineers assigned to the project. No, I responded firmly. The principle is sound. The implementation needs adjustment. I spent the next 72 hours reimagining the signal processing component, emerging with a solution that not only resolved the interference issue but improved overall system responsiveness. The team's respect visibly increased after this breakthrough. As we approached our 4-month milestone, preliminary testing confirmed my original efficiency projections. The system adapted to usage patterns with remarkable accuracy, redistributing energy resources almost intuitively. What had begun as a late-night inspiration had evolved into a patentable innovation with market-changing potential. Marcus arranged for a demonstration to our largest potential client, an international hotel chain looking to retrofit their properties with energy-efficient systems. Their technical team arrived skeptical but left visibly impressed. Your solution could save us millions annually across our properties, their chief sustainability officer noted. When can you start implementation? The successful demonstration catalyzed interest from other major clients. Our project timeline accelerated as market demand grew. My team expanded to 15 engineers, and I found myself in strategy meetings with executives who valued my technical insight and vision. 6 months into the project, Tech Innovate, a leading industry publication, requested an interview about our breakthrough approach. The resulting article, Nexus Innovation's Energy Revolution, led by Wonderkind Engineer, featured my portrait alongside quotes about the technical achievement and market implications. The article caught the attention of the National Innovation Foundation, which nominated me for their Young Innovator of the Year award, a prestigious recognition typically given to established researchers or entrepreneurs with years of industry experience. When the official nomination letter arrived, Marcus personally delivered it to my office. "This is extraordinary," he said, genuine pride in his voice. "The entire company is behind you." The recognition came with an invitation to present at the annual Innovation Summit in San Francisco, where the award would be announced among 5 finalists. Preparing for this presentation while continuing to lead the project stretched my capacity to its limits, but the opportunity was too significant to approach with anything less than total commitment. Amidst this professional whirlwind, I met Sophia Reyes, a brilliant product designer who joined Nexus to work on the user interface for our new system. Unlike many colleagues who seemed intimidated by my rapid rise, Sophia approached our collaboration with confident equality, challenging my assumptions and improving our product through thoughtful design principles. "Users don't care about algorithmic elegance," she pointed out during one heated design session. "They care about intuitive interaction and reliable results." Her perspective balanced my technical focus, and our professional relationship gradually expanded beyond project discussions. We began sharing lunch breaks, discussing books we'd both read, and eventually spending weekends exploring San Francisco's neighborhoods and museums. Sophia understood ambition and family complexity in ways others couldn't. Raised by a single mother who had sacrificed everything for her education, she carried both deep appreciation and the weight of those sacrifices. Success is complicated when it's tied to someone else's expectations, she observed during one conversation about my family estrangement. You're building something remarkable on your own terms. That takes extraordinary courage. Her understanding and support provided a foundation during the increasingly public phase of my career. As media attention around our innovation grew, I found myself giving presentations at industry conferences, speaking on technical panels, and representing Nexus to potential investors. The night before the Innovation Summit, I stood at the window of my apartment, looking out at the San Francisco skyline. For the first time since graduation, I allowed myself to wonder if my family had seen any of the articles or mentions of my work. Did they know about the nomination? Would they care if they knew? The questions carried less pain than they once would have. Their approval, so desperately sought for so many years, had become increasingly irrelevant to my sense of accomplishment. What mattered now was the reality I had created, technology that would make a meaningful difference, colleagues who respected my abilities, friends who valued my authentic self, and the growing confidence that came from building success on my own terms. The Innovation Summit was scheduled for early October, almost exactly 1 year after I had cut contact with my family. As the event approached, I focused entirely on preparing my presentation and managing the growing implementation team at Nexus. The nomination had elevated our project's profile, bringing both exciting opportunities and increased scrutiny. 3 weeks before the summit, an unexpected email arrived in my personal account. The sender's name, Tyler Walker, caused my heart to skip. After nearly a year of silence, my brother had found a way to contact me. The subject line read simply, "Saw the article about you." For several minutes, I stared at the unread email, cursor hovering over the delete button. Part of me wanted to erase this intrusion from my carefully reconstructed life. Another part, a voice I thought I'd silenced, whispered of family bonds and unresolved emotions. Finally, I opened it. "Damien, I saw your profile in Tech Innovate. Didn't realize you were doing such important work. Would like to talk if you're willing. Things have changed, Tyler." The brevity and lack of apology were typically Tyler, but the initiative to reach out was not. My brother had never been one to make the first move in resolving conflicts. This deviation from pattern intrigued me almost as much as it angered me. I closed the email without responding and went to the gym, pushing through an intense workout as I processed my conflicted feelings. Later that evening, I called Nathan for perspective. "He saw you getting public recognition and suddenly wants to talk," Nathan observed skeptically. "Seems convenient." "That was my first thought too," I admitted. "But something feels different. Tyler never reaches out first." After similar conversations with Sophia and my therapist, I crafted a brief, neutral response. "Tyler, thank you for reaching out. I'm open to limited communication, but need to understand your intentions. My life has moved in a positive direction since last year's events. Damien." His response came within hours. "Can we meet in person? I've moved to San Francisco for a job 3 months ago. Lot to talk about. Coffee somewhere public?" The revelation that Tyler had been living in the same city for months without contacting me until seeing the article confirmed my suspicions about his motivations. Still, curiosity won out over caution. I agreed to meet at a neutral cafe halfway between our workplaces. The day of our meeting arrived with unexpected anxiety. I arrived early, selecting a table with a clear view of the entrance and multiple exit paths, a strategic choice my therapist would probably analyze later. At exactly noon, Tyler walked in. He had changed. The confident swagger that had always characterized his movement was diminished. His designer clothes had been replaced by standard office attire, and he seemed thinner, with dark circles under his eyes suggesting stress or insufficient sleep. "Damien," he said, approaching the table with visible nervousness, "thanks for agreeing to this." Our initial conversation was awkward, surface-level exchanges about the weather, the city, how long he had been in San Francisco. I waited, letting him navigate to the real purpose of this meeting. Finally, after his coffee was half finished, Tyler sighed deeply. "I owe you an apology. Several, actually." "For?" I prompted, unwilling to make this easier for him. "For the graduation thing. For starters, it was wrong. We should have been there. You flew to New York instead," I stated flatly. Tyler winced. "Yeah, that was. I didn't fully understand at the time what that meant to you. Mom and Dad always made it seem like you didn't care about family stuff. They were wrong. I know that now." He nodded. "Look, a lot has changed since you cut contact. I've realized some things about our family that aren't comfortable." Tyler explained that after graduation, he had struggled to find employment despite his business degree from NYU. Our parents had initially supported him financially while he found his path. But as months passed without progress, their patience thinned. They started asking why I couldn't be more like you, focused, determined, successful right out of school, he explained with obvious irony. The golden child treatment faded pretty fast when I wasn't meeting expectations. He had eventually found an entry-level position at a financial services firm in San Francisco, deliberately choosing distance from our parents, who had grown increasingly critical of his career progress. "I'm living with 2 roommates in a crappy apartment, paying my own bills for the first time," he admitted. "It's been a wake-up call about how much was handed to me before." As he spoke, I recognized the painful growth process he was experiencing, the same reckoning with reality that I had navigated years earlier, but without the cushion of parental support. "Are you still in contact with them?" I asked. "Limited. Holiday calls, occasional updates. They know I'm in the same city as you. They've been following your career, you know." This revelation startled me. "Following how?" "Your public LinkedIn, company announcements. The Tech Innovate article was framed on Dad's desk when I visited at Easter. The image of my father displaying my professional achievements while making no attempt to reconcile created a complex emotion I couldn't immediately name. "They're too proud to reach out," Tyler continued. "But they talk about you. They Google you. They know they messed up. And you? Why are you reaching out now?" Tyler looked down at his empty cup. "Partly because seeing that article made me realize how much I've missed knowing my brother. Partly because I'm struggling here, and you're the only family in this city. Mostly because I need to apologize for being part of a system that hurt you for so long." His admission lacked the defensive tone that had characterized our previous interactions. For perhaps the first time, Tyler seemed to see me clearly, not as competition or an obstacle, but as someone who had experienced genuine hurt from our family's dynamics. "I'm not asking for us to be best friends," he clarified. "Just, maybe we could talk occasionally? Get to know each other as adults without our parents' influence?" I considered his request carefully. "I'm willing to try limited contact, but I need you to understand that I've built a life that works for me. I'm not looking to recreate family dynamics that were harmful." Tyler nodded, relief visible on his face. "That's fair. More than fair." As our conversation concluded, he mentioned the upcoming Innovation Summit. "I saw you're a finalist for that award. It's a big deal, right?" "Yes," I acknowledged. "One of 5 finalists nationally. Would it be completely inappropriate if I attended?" "The website says it's open to the public with registration." The question caught me off guard. My immediate instinct was refusal, keeping my professional triumph separate from the family that had dismissed my achievements. But something in Tyler's expression, a genuine desire to witness rather than appropriate my moment, gave me pause. "You can attend," I said finally, "but I need to focus on the presentation and judges. Don't expect much interaction." "Understood," he agreed quickly. "I just want to see my brother do his thing. No interference." As we parted ways outside the cafe, Tyler added, "For what it's worth, Mom and Dad might watch the live stream. The foundation is streaming the finalist presentations, right?" The thought of my parents watching remotely added another layer of complexity to the already high-pressure event. I nodded without comment and headed back to work, mind churning with implications. That evening, I discussed the meeting with Sophia over dinner at her apartment. "Are you okay with your family suddenly appearing at the edges of your life?" she asked directly. "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me wants to maintain the clean break. Another part wonders if there's a way to have some connection without returning to old patterns. People can change, she offered. But relationships only work when everyone acknowledges the reality of what happened, not just what they wish had happened. Her wisdom, as usual, provided clarity. I wasn't ready to fully reconnect with my parents, but Tyler's initiative suggested possibilities for a new, more honest relationship, one based on mutual respect rather than the assigned roles of our childhood. As the summit approached, I focused on preparing my presentation while processing the unexpected reconnection with Tyler. Whatever happened with my family, I had built a life and career on my own terms. The award nomination validated not just my technical innovation, but the personal reinvention that had made it possible. The morning of the Innovation Summit dawned clear and bright, California sunshine streaming through my apartment windows as I reviewed my presentation notes one final time. The event would gather technology leaders from across the country at San Francisco's prestigious Innovation Center, with hundreds more watching via live stream. I dressed carefully in the charcoal suit Sophia had helped me select, paired with a subtle blue tie that brings out your eyes without being distracting, as she had put it. The finalist presentations would begin at 10, with the award announcement scheduled for 2 in the afternoon. Sophia had insisted on driving me to the venue. "You need to focus on your content, not parking," she reasoned. During the drive, she maintained light conversation about weekend plans and a new restaurant she wanted to try, deliberately avoiding adding to my pre-presentation nervous energy. As we approached the venue, I spotted the Innovation Foundation banners and the gathering crowd of attendees. "Ready to change the technology world?" Sophia asked with a supportive smile. "As ready as I'll be," I replied, suddenly aware of how far I'd come from the overlooked son, seeking validation to the confident engineer preparing to present groundbreaking work on a national stage. The Innovation Center's main hall had been transformed into an elegant presentation space, with 5 distinct sections dedicated to each finalist. Our area featured Nexus branding alongside displays, demonstrating the adaptive energy optimization framework in action. Marcus and several executive team members had already arrived, reviewing the demonstration units and greeting early attendees. "The star arrives," Marcus called, approaching with an extended hand. "The judges have been asking about you." Good sign. The next hour passed in a blur of introductions, technical discussions with curious attendees, and final coordination with the presentation team. 10 minutes before my scheduled presentation time, I excused myself to the preparation room for a moment of quiet focus. As I reviewed my notes one last time, I heard a soft knock on the door. Expecting a staff member with timing updates, I called, "Come in." The door opened to reveal Tyler, looking uncomfortable in a suit slightly too large for his frame. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "Just wanted to wish you good luck. I'll be in the back row." The sight of my brother in this context, my professional world, where I had established value independent of family connections, created a strange cognitive dissonance. For a brief moment, past and present collided uncomfortably. "Thank you," I managed, keeping my tone professional. "I appreciate you coming." He nodded, seeming to understand my need for space. "You've got this," he added before quietly closing the door. Minutes later, I was introduced to enthusiastic applause and took my place at the center of the stage. Scanning the audience, I spotted familiar faces: Sophia in the 3rd row, Nathan who had flown in for the event, Marcus and the Nexus team, and at the very back, Tyler, attentive and somewhat out of place. For 20 minutes, I guided the audience through the development and implementation of our energy optimization system, explaining complex technical concepts in accessible terms while demonstrating real-world applications and impact. The judges' questions were probing but fair, allowing me to highlight both the mathematical elegance and practical benefits of the innovation. As I concluded to strong applause, I felt a wave of satisfaction independent of the competition's outcome. Whether or not I won the award, this presentation represented the culmination of years of work and personal growth. The remaining presentations proceeded through the morning, each showcasing impressive innovations in various fields. After a networking lunch where I barely ate, focusing instead on conversations with interested industry leaders, We gathered back in the main hall for the award announcement. The Foundation's director, Dr. Eleanor Hughes, took the stage with a sealed envelope. This year's Young Innovator Award goes to an individual who has reimagined energy management in ways that will impact industries from residential construction to hospitality to healthcare. Their work demonstrates not only technical brilliance, but practical application that can significantly reduce energy consumption worldwide. A pause then. This year's recipient is Damian Walker for the Adaptive Energy Optimization Framework. The room erupted in applause as I made my way to the stage, mind curiously calm despite the significance of the moment. As Dr. Hughes handed me the Crystal Award and posed for photographs, I searched the audience again. Sophia was standing, applauding enthusiastically. The Nexus team looked triumphant, and at the back of the room stood Tyler, his expression a complex mixture of surprise, pride, and something that looked remarkably like regret. My acceptance speech was brief but heartfelt, acknowledging the support of Marcus, my team at Nexus, and friends who became family when I needed it most. As I left the stage, carrying the substantial award, I was intercepted by journalists, industry leaders, and potential partners, each eager to discuss future applications and possibilities. Nearly an hour passed before I could extract myself from these conversations. As the crowd began to disperse, I spotted Tyler still waiting near the back of the hall, looking increasingly out of place among departing technology executives. When I approached him, his first words caught me off guard. "How did you achieve all this?" he asked, genuine bewilderment in his voice. "No connections, no family support, nothing handed to you. How?" The question reflected the fundamental difference in our upbringings. Tyler genuinely couldn't conceive of achievement without the assistance and validation he had always received. "I had to," I answered simply. "There was no safety net, no one to fall back on. Excellence wasn't optional for me." Tyler nodded slowly, processing this reality. "Mom and Dad watched the live stream," he said after a moment. "Dad texted me during your presentation. He said, and I quote, 'We had no idea what Damien was capable of.'" I let out a short, incredulous laugh. "I've been showing them what I'm capable of my entire life. They never paid attention." "They're paying attention now," Tyler replied. "They asked if you'd take a call from them." The request hung between us, loaded with decades of complicated history. Part of me wanted to refuse outright, to protect the independence I'd fought so hard to establish. Another part recognized an opportunity to engage from a position of strength rather than need. "Not today," I decided. "This day is about my work, not family drama. But maybe in a few weeks, we can discuss it." Relief washed over Tyler's face. "That's fair. More than fair." As we walked out of the venue together, Tyler asked about my plans for celebrating. I mentioned the dinner Nexus had arranged with key team members and partners. "That sounds great," he said, genuine enthusiasm in his voice. "You deserve every bit of this recognition, Damien, and for what it's worth, I'm sorry it took me so long to see that." We parted with an awkward but sincere handshake, agreeing to meet for coffee the following week. As he walked away, I felt a strange lightness, not forgiveness exactly, but perhaps the beginning of a new chapter free from the resentment that had fueled so much of my drive. Sophia was waiting by her car, grinning broadly when she spotted the award in my hands. "Congratulations, Mr. Young Innovator," she called. "Ready for your celebratory dinner?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. "Parents asking if they can visit next month. Only if you're ready. No pressure either way." I showed Sophia the message. "What do you think?" She considered carefully before answering. "I think you're in a position to set terms for any relationship now, from a place of strength, not need. Whatever you decide, do it because it's right for you, not out of obligation." 3 weeks later, I agreed to dinner with my parents at a neutral restaurant. The conversation was stilted, uncomfortable, but necessary. My father, for the first time in my memory, acknowledged his favoritism and the damage it had caused. My mother cried when I described watching their social media posts from New York during my graduation. "We got it terribly wrong," my father admitted. "Seeing your work, what you've accomplished despite our failures as parents, we have so much to make up for." You can't make up for it, I told them honestly. But we can decide what kind of relationship is possible going forward, with clear boundaries and expectations. We didn't emerge from that dinner as a healed family. What we established instead was a tentative new connection based on adult relationships rather than parent-child dynamics. I maintained my independence while allowing limited contact under conditions that respected my boundaries. In the months that followed, my innovation was implemented across multiple industries, generating significant environmental impact and financial success for Nexus. I was promoted to Director of Innovation, leading a department focused on next-generation energy solutions. Sophia and I transitioned from colleagues to a committed couple, moving into a San Francisco apartment with views of the Bay. Tyler and I developed a cautious friendship, meeting weekly for coffee or occasional basketball games. He struggled professionally compared to my trajectory, but found his own path in nonprofit management, eventually. Our relationship, freed from the competitive dynamic our parents had created, became one of mutual respect and occasional genuine enjoyment. My parents remained at a greater distance, occasional calls, rare visits, always on my terms. They never fully understood the depth of the damage their favoritism had caused, but they recognized enough to approach our relationship with humility rather than entitlement. The Innovation Award became just one milestone in a career defined by meaningful contribution rather than desperate validation seeking. Each achievement brought satisfaction on its own terms, not as a proxy for the approval I had once so desperately sought. Looking back on the year that transformed my life, from the painful absence at graduation to the triumphant award ceremony, I recognized that my family's greatest gift to me was, paradoxically, their rejection. It forced me to build a life on my own terms, to seek value in my own capabilities rather than external validation. While I'll never forget the pain of being left behind, I'm grateful for the fire it lit within me. The greatest revenge isn't showing them what they missed. It's discovering what you never knew you could become. Have you ever had to rebuild yourself after someone underestimated your worth? Share your story in the comments below. If this journey of overcoming family betrayal to find success resonated with you, please subscribe and hit the like button. Remember, sometimes the people who should believe in you the most are the ones who see you the least, but that doesn't define what you can achieve. Thank you for listening, and may your own challenges become the foundation of your greatest strengths.